So would that individual get paid more, or that would just be part of their responsibilities inside their current contract?
Both. I mean, yes, it could be in a potential additional stipend, but it's still part of the contract.
Okay.
So all I'm saying is that when we had talked about this in the past, we were just trying to look for additional ways to do cost saving measures. So like FFA, like why is that not part of the agriculture?
Can I answer that, Fran? So all of these clubs, like with the math thing, they have competitions that are generally outside of the school day
Yep.
that they go to. And like they have weekly meetings, after school, monthly meetings, they go tons of places, they take field trips constantly. It's a lot of extra work for that person to do it.
Not saying it's not, but
No,
all
I
I'm
know.
saying is that.
But I'm just saying why there was the contract was there.
That's why I think it should be like a full board discussion, because
Okay.
we had talked about it, I know many times over the past, this goes way back to David.
Okay.
And
We can do that.
to sit and try to,
And thank you for explaining that. I just want to understand that, what you're thinking and what you're saying, and I do now.
So 5.3 is really nothing tied to 5.2. 5.3 is just where it is on the compensation listing, not tied to an individual.
so the appendix F that you're now talking
Correct.
about.
Correct.
What, did this one go up in cost?
Down.
Or it went down?
Yes.
Okay. That one, I don't think needs to get pulled. I just wanted to, that 5.2.
Okay.
You want to have a discussion about what
Yep.
the board is aware, okay?
Yep, just because of the historical discussions that we're
Okay,
at.
I understand.
So I think we're at a point where we need a second for 5.3.
Okay, right, correct.
I'll second
So
that.
You'll second.
And then we have to vote.
Okay, and,
All
no.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. The rest are discussionary items. I apologize, 5.5, long story. But anyway,
5.4.
4, liquidated damages analysis. I had Rod reach out to his colleagues. He has the connections with his connections through the finance people to get an idea for liquidated damages. So he provided the liquidated damages analysis for me, or got it together, the data, and then I cleaned it up. But right now, our liquidated damages are in line with everybody else's. I would say, if you look at,
With the exception of a couple.
with the exception of a couple that are outliers, you know,
Yeah.
Marion and
Yeah.
Marathon and Florence are
Wautoma.
outliers. Yeah, right, but for the most part, if you look at everybody, we're in
Yeah.
line with where everybody else is, and that, you know, what are we, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 range
Right.
seems to be the most consistent one, so I don't have any recommendation to increase it, I would keep it right where it is personally. But if there's a desire to increase it, then that would come, we can bring that back next month. Or change it.
I don't.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay.
I'll make the second.
Okay,
All in favor?
Aye.
okay.
Any discussion on any?
So then the next one is the substitute teacher analysis. So we gathered some of this data as well from the past. If you look, you know, we're consistent with our neighbors in terms of where we are. If you look at our two biggest neighbors being DC Everston and Wausau, we're in line with where they are in terms of our per day rate and our long-term rate. Some of that can fluctuate, but we're right in line with all those individuals. So I have no recommendation to change that one either.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And then last but not least, update on open positions, we have none, everything is full. We have a handful of coaching positions to cover for the winter, so we got a little bit, we got a little bit of time to do that, so, overall, we got teachers and support staff hired, and so we're good on all those fronts, so I have really nothing to add on that at all.
Okay. We don't need any motion or anything.
Nope.
Okay. And future agenda items?
I have stuff that's part of the
Right.
revolving, so unless
Mhm.
anybody has anything else, that'll be on next month.
Okay, anybody have anything else? Okay, if not,
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Okay.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Here you go, Paul. Listen to this now. This is how you watch an athletic event in my house.
Good.
Okay? Okay, so this is
Thank you.
On the corner.
tonight, the agenda or the sign up is back there. Please do it before the public forum. Roll call, item number 2, roll call of directors.
Calandra.
Here.
Diane Gorman.
Here.
Donna Kaiser.
Here.
Jessica Maple.
Here.
Megan Stankowski.
Here.
Paul Nowinski.
Here.
David Bauer.
Here.
Derek Ness.
Here.
Joe Knadler.
Here. Okay, item number 3, pledge allegiance. Flags over there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 4, approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, any changes, anything we need?
I'll make the motion to approve.
We have a motion by Gorman to approve the agenda,
A second.
a second by Bauer. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Item number 5, approval of the minutes from last month's board meeting.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion by Kaiser,
A second.
second by Zebro.
Stankowski.
Oh, Stankowski, sorry. By Stankowski. Any more discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item number 6, special presentation, discussion of possible action, donation by Intelligent Future Foundation.
Yeah, this is a group that, for those of you that are groundbreaking, heard a little bit about it already, but I will turn it over to Tom, because he worked with them on this from day one, so I'll turn it over to Tom to finish it.
Yeah, so I guess I want to give a little bit of background to the donation. The Fast Forward grant is a grant that is offered by DWD, the Department of Workforce Development, and they changed the parameters of the grant last year that allowed if you could find private industry-specific partners to help you on the grant project and provide either in-kind money or donation, the state match went from 2 to 1 to 1 to 1. And so if you were unable to do that, it was a 2 to 1, so you had to come up with more money and get less from the state. And so the donation that you have on here to accept Intelligent Future Foundation donated $21,000 to our school and our tech ed project as part of that grant. But by doing that as an industry partner, that increased the amount that we got from the state. So really the true value of that is about $36,000. And so with that, along with an in-kind donation of curriculum from FANIC, we were able to get $100,000 from the state as part of the last Fast Forward grant at no expense to our district. And so I'm asking you to accept the donation from Intelligent Foundation in terms of $21,000, but the true value really exceeds that because of the makeup of that grant and how it is. And so the equipment that was purchased in that round of grant is a FANIC material handling robot, so to get kids being able to program logic and get their hands on robotics. A virtual reality, augmented reality welder set to give kids opportunities to access that in both a cleaner atmosphere, so we could go maybe younger grades. We can't get them into the welding shop, but maybe we talked about, can we go to a middle school lunch and let kids see this? Or as well as just getting kids extra reps if all the welding bays are full. As well as a 3D area scanner, which is going to allow our students, especially on the far more advanced side, reverse engineer products and be able to take a piece of equipment, use the 3D scanner, reverse engineer it, create blueprints, and either 3D print or take it to the mill in the metal shop and fabricate that piece to that exact design and specifications as they work towards just being more prepared for advanced manufacturing, which is our goal. So that's kind of the long background of this donation, and I just wanted you to know the background and how, I guess, impactful this one donation really ended up being.
Make a motion to approve.
I have a motion by
A
Maples,
second.
second by Gorman. Any more discussion?
Mr. Awesome, thank
Nice work, Tom, and
Yeah.
Yeah,
whoever
thank
was
you.
involved in that,
Thanks.
excellent job.
I sense all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. We'll send all the appropriate thank you letters and everything.
Yep.
Thank you very much for your effort.
Yep, yep.
Item 6.2, discussion athletic director report.
Okay, I'll turn it over to Kelly as she's walking up. Kelly started her position officially July 1, but she started much earlier than that, getting acclimated to position. As I told the staff, Kelly and I share a wall. Actually, Christy has the connection on her end. It's wirelessly connected. She should be able to have it. Yep.
So she can present.
Yep, okay. So yeah, she's done a really good job. Her and I share a wall, so I get to hear everything she does every day, and she's doing a really nice job, so I'm really happy with her progress. So I'll turn it over to her to talk about what she has been doing.
Do you want to do it yourself, or do you want me to? It doesn't matter, okay. Just tell me when to advance. Sounds good. We had a few different sports start dates, so those are all now officially underway as of yesterday. So football started already 2 weeks ago, along with girls swimming started last week, and then the other three, cross-country, volleyball, soccer, started yesterday. The next slide, I just have some of the numbers of participants that we have out for the different middle school and high school sports. A total of, I think I just added it up, 343 kiddos out for different sports so far this fall. Just a couple pictures. We had volleyball practice start yesterday, and then we had the football scrimmage already last Friday that was at Everest. So fun to see everybody back in the gyms and on the fields. Some of the communication that I've sent out, registration opened July 1st, so I had sent out skyward messages, emails to students and parents. We held a coaches meeting in here on July 31st. We ended up having 33 of our fall coaches, or actually it was all coaches were invited to it. I'd like to try to implement at least minimally seasonal meetings just for the coaches to try to get to work together and hear what each other is doing, where they're struggling, where they're succeeding, just to have more of that communication between all of the coaches. We also held a parent-player meeting on Sunday, August 3rd. Again, that's something that I'd like to, again, do seasonally before the start of all of our sports seasons. So we met in the auditorium. I kind of did an overview of, kind of general overview of expectations. Students were able to take the impact test that day, so we had freshmen and juniors mostly. They have to take it every 2 years, so normally freshmen and juniors take it, but we arranged to have the technology here for that. Our new athletic trainer was here as well, so we tried to hammer out as much of that impact concussion test. It's pretty much a baseline, and then if a student athlete does get some type of head injury, then they take that concussion test a second time, and then the trainer's able to compare the first results with the current results, and they kind of come up with a plan from there. After the meeting that all the parents attended in the auditorium, then we broke up into the different sports groups, so it was kind of another point for the coaches to be able to meet with the parents, and then the students were able to meet with them after that. The athletic passes, we just got them printed yesterday, so we do have those available. They're gonna be available for all, at all varsity events. We have a cost right now of $15 for adults and $25 for family. Just a little bit of research that I had done, just reaching out to some of our local school districts to just kind of check and see, are we in the right area for that? So tried to get as much feedback from that I could from around the area and also the Great Northern Conference, so.
That might be something we wanna talk about going into next year, we're on the low side of that.
Arbiter is taking over for our school. So Arbiter was a brand new registration program that we are using this year. Pretty much the whole state of Wisconsin is going to it. So eventually everything will get run through there, but our registration got put through there this fall. So parents had to create a completely new account. So it was a little bit new to them, but the process, I don't know, I probably did it in like 10 to 15 minutes. But all the forms are on there. back in the day, you used to have to fill out like 5 or 10 different forms and turn those all in. Now it's all right within the Arbiter program, so, the registration is completely transferred over, and eventually it'll include all of the game schedules, the ref view, which is more so for my side of it, and then the game contracts between the different school districts. Coaches certification, I've been looking into this quite a bit and trying to make sure that we're all in compliance. All coaches are supposed to be CPR, first aid, and AED certified every 2 years. So I've been working with Chloe Smith and Sarah Gettle here, our school nurses within the district. They've offered, I think it's been at least 4 different dates that they've offered for the coaches to come in and get their certification. Part of it is done online, and then the in-person training is done normally within about an hour or so. High school coaches also must watch the video for their sport. It pretty much includes any new updates, and then they also have a test that they have to take. So most sports, it's down to a 50-question test. I think maybe cross-country might only be 25 questions, but that's again a requirement for the WIA for all high school coaches. So trying to keep track of that maybe a little bit better and try to get everybody, again, up to date on that. We also have a category of coaches that are not licensed to teach, so those are our CNLTs. The WIAA also requires those people to take a fundamentals of coaching course offered through the National Federation of High School. With that, there is I think it's a $35 cost, but the district is covering that once they get us the completed certificate. They need to do that before they begin their second year of coaching. And that's a one-time thing, so if they take it now and they're here for 15 years coaching, then they're kind of covered. So those are just some of the things that the coaches are having to make sure that trying to make sure that the coaches all have to be able to coach within the district. We have new athletic trainer. I just saw him buzz past. Luke Howard, he comes to us from Aspirus, so he joined us for the parent-player meeting, and he was also here for open house. During open house, we also had a room set up with Chromebooks for the students to also do the impact test during that time. He's been here a ton, so glad to have him on board. Some other updates. I know this was kind of floating around Facebook, but we have a new scoreboard at Veterans Park. So special thank you to all those sponsors for making that possible. So our first Friday night football game is this Friday, so excited to see it in action. The Kubota, we got the stickers for the Kubota. We have the All-Storm Paper Mill and also Mullins Way, which was a donation almost 2 years ago, but we finally got the stickers on it, so we're giving them the proper recognition for helping us sponsor having a UTV on campus to be able to run back and forth from different events, whether it's the football game. We're going to take it up to the cross-country meet next September 2nd, not next Tuesday, but the next following Tuesday, for the cross-country meet up there. So we also have the banners that need to get updated. The Storm hockey team won state in 2024, so I'm working on trying to get that updated along with baseball, softball, and volleyball. I think they have years that need to be added to either their conference champ section, their regional champ, or their sectional champ section. So those stickers are on order and in the process of being put up. We're just kind of at liberty of, or at the mercy of the lift and when that's available, so working on that. Other things in the works, updating the Hall of Fame. There's at least 2 plaques that are missing from it, but potentially more. I know for sure 2 that were inducted in 2020. I don't know what happened between now and then. I know I had a couple emails. One of them was somebody that actually walked across the field, so I'm like, I know she should be up there. So working on updating those plaques. We also have our scholar athlete, that the last person on there was from 2019, so we have lots of room up there, so I'd like to get those all updated. Heather Bartnick's been great she's kept record of all of that with doing the recognition, whether it was at the scholarship night, so she has all of the updated information, so working on that. And then we also have a 12 sport
that list, and maybe it's great what these reports you're doing, but can we compare the number of students in sports, like, you know, we watch for the coaches, if we are dropping the numbers, we're gonna have to get rid of, you know, displace that coach at that point, might not need that many. So is it something that could be shared with them as well as they watch their sports when they go throughout the seasons? So, and through the years. And the other suggestion is, if you're gonna look at like the passes for parents and families, maybe with a comparison of what our student athletes paying to participate in the sports versus other schools. So we can kinda try to balance it out to show that as well.
Other
So,
questions?
otherwise, great.
Yeah. Additionally, Greg, you have made a comment that we'll have to look at that for the family passes, not for next year. Why wait till next year? Is this published somewhere that it
Yeah,
can't?
and we're already in the process, I mean, they're being sold on Friday night. It's not an
So-
action item for tonight. So by the time you get to September, we're gonna have multiple athletic events that would be hosted, I guess, was my thought.
Okay, so they were starting to be sold last Friday night, is what you're saying?
No, they're getting sold this coming Friday night for the first home football game.
Okay,
But it's not an item that the board can act on tonight, because it's not on the agenda as a possible action item.
but it is in general listed as a discussion of possible action item.
I think it has to be a specific increase that you're gonna do to be new business.
I would, the board can do as they see fit. I would say, the way I've always seen board items have to be listed is the average person has to understand what the action item is that the board is going to be taking in order for it to be an actionable item. And the athletic director report, to me, would not be sufficient enough to argue that it is detailed enough. It would have to be increase, if it was me that would post it, it would be increase to student and family all sport season passes is how I would list it on a board agenda. But if the board wants to act, it's entirely up to you guys. It's your meeting, your decision.
Understand, it's just showing that the comparators, that we are definitely very low. I mean, that data is there, so.
Go ahead.
Well, I think seeing that the public has a chance to see this, and if they're watching, they heard it, it would be kind of unusual to Friday night raise the prices, to me. That would be unfair to the families and to the people they wouldn't be expecting.
I think you really lack transparency with the public when
Right.
you do that, because we post our agenda items for people to come and look at. I understand where you're coming, but I think this is something that we should look for the future. Even if we talk about it next month, we don't start it to the following year, so people understand that.
Right.
I mean, your other option would be to not start selling season passes until after the September board meeting. In which case, then people that would buy the season pass will have already attended.
We have, Jack, what's up?
So this fee is on the fee schedule that was approved at the April 15th meeting,
We-
just so you have that
yeah.
as information on site.
We'd have to change a
I don't know
lot of
if you
things.
wanna wait for that, or
Yeah.
Thank you for the
I just wanted to
clarification.
let you know that it is listed.
Jessica, I understand where you're coming from. I think we just need some time. This is the first time we've gotten a report this detailed. It'd been nice to get this a few years ago, but we didn't. And now we do, and we have some information, and we know that things have gotta change when we're looking at it.
My concern is if it falls off the radar again and then next year rolls around and we missed it again. That's my concern, because it just in general, it's happened with other issues, so that's all I'm saying.
I get you. Go.
Is the concussion screener for all student athletes?
Right now, it's just high school.
High school.
I had a question on that too. Who's ultimately responsible for determining who goes through that and then who signs off when that is?
The athletic trainer. is
The athletic trainer is always on.
Yes.
But it's a WIA rule.
Yep, right, that's what I was gonna say, so it's not, I didn't know if that was part of our coaching training or if that, or how that all
No, the
needs to
athletic
get-
trainer was the one
Yep.
that I arranged with him.
Yep,
He'll
okay.
sit down with the
And
students and
who
tell what
actually does the
website.
analysis?
The analysis of the,
Yeah.
well, it's all a computer-based test, and then the trainer or their individual doctor will do an analysis of the results
Okay.
to determine if they're eligible
So some of it's done by doctors?
Yes, it can be done by a doctor or by the athletic trainer, both depending upon, if you're in the Aspire system, odds are the trainer will do it because it's in system, but if you're not in the Aspire system, sometimes the doctor will.
So that never falls back on the coach?
The school district or the coaches do not determine that.
There's no, okay,
No.
I just wanna make sure there's no.
The athletic
Right.
It's a medical
trainer
person.
can take anybody out of competition
Yep.
at any time.
Who can do that?
The athletic trainer can. If you
How
have
about
any
the
signs
coach?
of a concussion, your coach can too. As a coach, if you see any signs, you are basically told you're out until you're evaluated.
The referee also has.
Referee has the same.
For the trainer to verify that they're, not concussed enough to come back.
The whole system is about the safety of the player.
Mhm.
Thank you for all the backlog and the cleanup that you've done. And also for the email that went out to parents. That was the first one I've ever gotten as a parent that said, just letting you know, you need to, if you would like to
There's
participate.
probably 4 of them, so I probably.
No, but it was
It's like
nice
every
though,
week.
because usually it's parents scrambling after they've heard that so-and-so has already started a sport and they had no idea. So it was nice to preemptively get an email saying, just a heads up, registration is open, please go online, and this is how you do it. It's helpful for all parents to know that. Thank you.
I've heard nothing but really good things about
Yeah.
the parent meeting. That hasn't always happened. And the coaches meeting and the communication. And I know you're gonna be evaluating coaches, going to practices, doing things, and that's the way it should have been done.
So there's 33 coaches that attended, and I think I forgot to mention, there was 97 kids represented at the fall sport meeting, so I thought
That's
that
great.
was a decent number. And then I also did email out, the presentation that I shared, and then it's also posted on the website to try and make sure we get everybody. Some school districts require it, it's just hard, and it's trying to find the perfect day and weekend during the week, 4 o'clock versus 8 o'clock, like, trying to work with families.
In the past, we used to film it many years ago.
Sure.
And then if a parent couldn't attend, they had to come into the school with their child, and they both had to watch it. It can be, but
One school district I saw, they had like a Google, form, like quiz,
Mhm.
that they take after the fact.
Yeah.
That they would ask questions about the.
we just want people to come and, so we can give them information. So they're not asking us questions midway through the season.
I do have an additional question. When you do the parent and student meeting, do you have the athletic trainer spend a good chunk of time on the concussions? Just concussions alone and education and the long-term, the lifelong effects from concussions?
He did not speak at this first meeting. I can definitely see adding him in there. With him being new, with me being new, and, the way that it kind of worked, I had everybody in there, students and parents. And once I got done doing the kind of in the beginning of the meeting, then the students were dismissed to go with the trainer, so.
I just, there's a lot of legislation that's out there, and I know there's one certainly out there right now that's going through at the national level for service members experiencing multiple concussions from blast. Athletes can have the same experience, and people do not understand the lifelong debilitating effects from these things. And I just hope that parents can have a good education, because it's just like asking somebody who is intoxicated, they're gonna say they're okay to drive, because you don't know what you don't know, because your brain has literally been rocked, and they don't know how to, that athlete or that parent may not know. And it is just so important to get the parents to understand that, put the child's safety first, and making sure that they have enough information to make a decision, or even a week or two later, if they still need to take them back for further evaluation. But I think just that further education will go miles at potentially helping that student for the rest of their life, just having that.
Parents are used to seeing the concussion stuff. I don't disagree with having more, but recent legislation has required youth sports to also now have parents sign off on concussions. So if your student athlete is in youth softball, youth baseball, youth basketball, any of that organizational type stuff at the youth levels, you also have to sign off on concussion education concepts and go through that whole approval process.
Summer camps are required the same
Yeah.
thing.
Agreed, but we all know that like when you sign, many just click and sign. They don't truly read, they don't have that educational, somebody really feeding them what those, the definitions, the effects, the signs, the symptoms, all of that. So that's all I'm saying is just,
Good point.
hopefully it helps some family and is more proactive rather than reactive.
Are there any other questions?
I just had one just high level, like I said, are you seeing any obstacles to your success or anything you need from us?
Just every day is a new day, so that's kind of where I'm at, like from porta potties to log rolling, like stuff that I never like saw coming, so working through it though, and there's a lot of great people to rely on and ask questions too, so.
Okay.
Thank you very
All right,
much.
good job, Kelly. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Item 6.3, discussion, construction project update.
All right. Got nothing too nice. Just a couple quick notes. First of all, I just want to say, open house was a success. I'm glad we could attend. It was great. Got a good turnout. I think the public received it very well. So I think that was a very good evening for all parties included. But updates really, Findorf has been installing all the major footings around the building. You're seeing that happen as we go. Our goal really with the weather being decent, that maybe completed by Labor Day. Our masons are gonna be back on site after Labor Day. They've been working on the floor firewall that separates our building. They're waiting for some materials to come in, but they'll be in full force after Labor Day. So there's a lot of happening out in that job site. Excavators are doing a wonderful job. A lot of people don't realize there's a lot of product that actually gets shipped off this site, and they're storing it off-site for us, because we have no site to really store it to. And that's fine. So that'll all come back to our site once we're ready for asphalting and leveling everything out. So, but they've been doing a really wonderful job, and they're being very safe, which is great. One of the big hurdles we had really is stormwater management on our project. The state required us to install a pretty large tank. It's a 70-foot long tank that's basically sits out all the silt that comes off our parking lots. And that is now buried underground. That'll have to be serviced every year, but it's really to maintain the quality of the water before it hits the river. So just new laws, new codes. But it was a big ask. It was $200,000 roughly to put that in. So it is what it is. Public service has done great. Pretty much finished all their routing of gas and power. We have one little line that's gonna get done tomorrow actually for the internet line, but that's basically in really good shape. And if you look out there, you'll see a lot of white pipes sticking up. So that's our plumbers out there stubbing up all the piping for the restrooms and locker rooms and that type of thing. We have a large grease intercept that will be buried hopefully next week. That will feed our kitchen, or service our kitchen. That's actually on site right now, which is great, because last time we waited a long time to get it, so I'm glad that it's here. But, you know, weather's been really good so far. Look, we have a good week coming up, so they're happy with that. Pouring a lot of concrete, so we're happy to keep rolling. And so far, site's been very safe, and that's our goal. Get it up and running and get the steels coming next month, so it's huge for us. So the concrete is huge. But right now, there's nothing to report other than off this normal schedule. If something comes up, I'll let you folks know. But other than that, it's been very successful so far.
Other questions for Steve?
We're doing a time lapse of that, is that
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yep. We have an on-site camera, which is
Yep.
great, because it gives us some security too.
I was gonna say,
Every 15 minutes,
Yeah.
taking a picture.
Mhm.
So we kind of see it's really neat to watch it, you know, you don't realize
Yeah.
how much stuff gets moved and unmoved and taken back and
Mhm.
over there, and just all that.
It's good history.
It's great history, yeah.
It's great history.
do we have a plan to make that public or publish any of it at some point? I mean, we will, maybe when it's finished, it'd be cool to show the progress reports as we go along too.
Any other questions? Steve, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Item 6.4, discussion Act 20 update.
Okay, Greg just asked that I briefly kind of touch base on an update of Act 20 as it continues. We've heard a lot about it over the last 2 years, preparing for it to get here, implementation last year. So just kind of an update of what continues to happen, what's new as we approach year 2. Some things that continue to happen that you've heard in the past. Our teachers continue to receive professional learning through Cox Campus, which is the approved vendor that we chose to deliver that certification. Those who were here last year and continue to teach here are in year 2 of that. It's a 3-year certification process. Time was built into their in-service days to complete complete that learning and will continue to be moving forward. Typically how it works is we give them a little time to watch the videos and do the learning, but then there's always a follow-up with Kathy so that there's actually application to what they learned. The state-aligned screener is still administered 3 times a year, fall, winter, spring, using Ames Web. Our first window will be 9/22 it'll start. The development of personal reading plans will continue to happen for students who qualify, as well as the continuation now as we move forward of students who didn't test out of those plans. The goals will carry forward and the work around there. What's new as we kind of move in and progress through this legislation and how to implement it properly is now our 3rd graders who were a part of that move to 4th grade, so the 4th grade team now gets on board to the training and how to work through these goals, how to write the plans. The Act 20 space on our webpage will hopefully go live by the end of this week. You should be able to see it, and on that we'll include the public posting of our early remediation plan, so any parent who's wondering if my student is struggling reading, what is the district's plan to address that. So that should be up and live here the next week. And then we moved from EduClimber to NextPath as our data collection warehouse. And where that is relevant to this area is NextPath built a very specific portal for Act 20 within it that allows teachers to populate the personal reading plans, to communicate right from there to parents. It syncs with our student information system, so all the parents' contact information is there, auto-generates that letter, lets the parent know that the plan is live, they can go in and see it, it logs the communication between them. So we're hoping that that's gonna streamline the teacher's process there and save them some time and make it more efficient. And then something new that we're working out is how to onboard new teachers now that we've gone through this training. How do we properly onboard a new teacher who is fresh out of college? There's a gap. Eventually, the teacher prep programs are going to be required to have teachers come out certified, but there's still a 2-year gap until that's going to happen. So in that meantime, what do we do? What do we do if we get a teacher from a different district who started training in a different program, came to us and is in the middle of their training using something totally different? So that's part of the planning process, is how do we support those new teachers through this learning, so that, because there's limited time at the beginning of the school year, but there's also a sense of urgency that first screener goes out September 22nd, and they have till about October 6th to have that personal reading plan done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. You might as well stay there.
Yeah.
Item 6.5, discussion of liftoffs presentation.
So we wanted to talk a little bit, we just finished up in-service last week, and we wanted to talk a little bit about what some of the things we're working on as a school district from an instructional lens and standpoint. And so before I get to some of the things we've communicated to our teachers, we wanted to give a little background of what started this conversation as an administrative team and as an educational field in general. Want me to do it, or you just read mine? So one thing we spent as an administrative team doing is we as a group read The Anxious Generation last spring, just to try and learn and understand students today a little bit better and a little deeper. And so for those of you who are not familiar with the book, what this book did was it took a look at what generationally makes students today different than maybe some of us who are in different generations. How did the change in childhood from the advent of the cell phone fundamentally change the way kids are growing up, and trying to better understand what the implications of those changes of childhood are as they walk through our doors and as we try to teach them and learn. And so what it did to a lot of us is we had these anecdotes, right, and these personal experiences that kids were different, but we couldn't explain it. And this provided a great explanation, a great data point to help us say, yeah, our anecdotes and experiences are true, and now we have research that shows that the new generation of students, Gen Z and now Gen Alpha, are fundamentally growing up differently, and their brain is being rewired differently as a result of those experiences compared to the ones that we had. And so, with that, we kind of spent a little time trying to understand, when we talk about different generations, right, there's some fundamental difference that changes the way kids grow up that marks the change of the generation. I'm on the elder end of that millennial part, and even within that millennial group, my experiences from the elder side of that is different than somebody who was born in 1996, right? Just the changes in what they've experienced, how they interact is probably the bigger thing. How they interact with what they experience and what that change does. And so as an admin team, we started to look at, okay, well, if kids are different and we know that, we understand that, we have to try and understand them better. And so from that research, what we've learned is some of the implications of those changes that we're seeing, and we see it there, is social skills are suffering. Attention it's fragmented, that attention span is there. Sleep deprivation, which causes a whole nother set of issues in some students who do that, and screen addiction. So when we talk about addiction with kids, understanding that there now is screen addiction as opposed to substances and things that we may have experienced. And then understanding what is kind of that portrait of Gen Z. We know that although we have some of those negative elements, there's also some other really great pieces. They're incredibly creative, they're incredibly innovative. They can walk circles and run circles around a lot of us when it comes to digital literacy and technological advancements. But we also know they're also very safety conscious when we talk about how they interact with the media. I mean, imagine some of the horrible things that we grew up seeing on the news. We could turn off the news and forget about it for 8 hours, but if you have a phone, it's hard to do that. Now you have 40,000 TikTok videos on your feed re-showing you that over and over and over. And I can tell you from my experience in the high school, as well as what some of this research shows, we have a generation of kids who are afraid to get their driver's license. They're genuinely not sure if they want to in some elements. There's some social isolation that happens. There's some emotional insecurities that happen. But they're interested in community purpose. They want to get involved in their community. So understanding all of these things kind of brought us to, the question of if now we know students are different, really questioning what have we changed in the last 15 to 20, 50, 75 years as the world continues to look different. And we started to explore this as we geared up for the school year. We took a look at this data to ask us some questions about, okay, so what are the implications? We know that maybe they interact differently than what we had seen 20 years ago. Well, what does that actually mean educationally? And you can see in that upper right-hand corner, that decline is student engagement through ages. And so you can see that as students enter our buildings, they're incredibly curious, they're incredibly excited to learn. And every year we see a decrease in that percentage of students who maintain that feeling. So what can we do about that? 41%, this is a survey done by the Walton Foundation. 41% of Gen Z students felt uninterested in their learning at school. 51% did not feel challenged. 54% felt that school does not connect to what their strengths are. They're failing to see relevance. And then we kind of looked around and said, okay, well, if they fail to see a relevance, why might that be? And I think if we take a look at how fast the rest of the world around us is changing, and they still see a school that is operating in the same systems that their parents operated in, well, we have to start asking ourselves questions, is what we're doing still the best fundamentally? What kind of systems? And not saying they're all bad, but we have to question, right? If that's the data we have in front of us, we have to ask ourselves, is what we've been doing the best still? And we can't just keep doing it because we've always done it. And so, wondering if our mission is to make sure that every kid here is ready for life after high school, are we doing that? And really exploring what we need to do that. On top of that, and kind of going with that, we also understand that there is a major workplace skills disruption coming to our economy when it comes to technological advancements. Not only do you have workforce shortages coming, right, but the skills needed. And World Economic Forum anticipates about 40% of the core skills needed are going to change from now until 2030. So we're preparing kids for a future that today is going to be different in 5 years. So understanding how we do that, really reflecting on that. Taking a look at what are the skills that are going to be valued. You see creative thinking, analytical thinking, technological literacy, the top 3 that are booming in what employers are saying our people need to have. They need to be able to work on a team, solve a complex problem together, and be able to navigate technology in the process of doing that. They also need to be flexible. Can they be lifelong learners to be able to adjust? The current research shows that Gen Z students are going to change their careers somewhere around 5 times before they retire. And that's a combination of trying something new or their job being phased out by technology. And so do we have learners that can be flexible and pivot when that happens and still be employable within their job? And then just another comparison, we showed staff about what some of these predicted skills are and the changes. You can see one of the biggest jumps there is not only by 2030 you need to be tech literate, but you have to be able to integrate and move AI and big data around. You have to understand somehow, some way, how to navigate that because it's everywhere. And then we found, and this is why it's titled Liftoff, we found some other common districts who are also doing these same questions and thinking. And there's, we joined 13 other districts who are networking together to try and solve these problems together. And it's called Liftoffs, and it's centered around CISA 4, which is out of the Onalaska group. And there are other small rural school districts, Whitehall, Oliva Strum, Cashton, us, Tomahawk, other schools who don't necessarily have all the resources of 10 instructional coaches per building, 3 administrators, but rural school districts who understand that their students need to be prepared for a world that is ever changing, and how do we do that from an instructional standpoint? And so you might see this acronym as the year goes on, and we wanted to have a basis of what it is, and it is this group of schools where we're coming together to try and solve these problems together, because we don't know exactly what it's going to look like, because like we said, in 5 years it's going to change, and so it's going to be an ever-changing process, and we want to align ourselves with other people who are also just questioning the same thing as what we're doing still working. And these are their 4 pillars that they believe is really important: inquiry learning, helping kids ask questions and solve complex problems, understanding that there are readiness skills you have to have, career readiness, and there has to be some differentiation and personalization for learning with today's students. This is kind of their phases of implementation, and what a lot of the school districts are trying to navigate this year is number 1 and number 2, and we're no different. We've kind of flipped the order for us personally, or combined them, I would say, into 2, that we have to find a way to personalize education to meet every student where they're at. We know that every kid walks into this building with a different story, a different background, a different level. How do we leverage technology to make sure every learner gets what they need? And then 2, how do we design in a way that we're getting really deep learning so that those durable skills come out, that analytical thinking, the creative piece, the teamwork, the collaboration, the communication, not just the memorization of material, but can they take that and apply it at a really deep level so there's a transfer from what we're doing here to that world after high school. And so this is our Mosinee take on it and how we wanted to roll it out. We feel these are the 4 areas that we have to get really good at. We have to align everything that we're doing. If we're really passionate about improving teaching and learning in our district, we have to create alignment of the things that we're doing. We believe that student-centered learning has to be a part of it. Is what we're doing about students, is it benefiting students? If it's not, why? Right? Asking that question. We do have to understand that we have to empower our teachers with those skills, with that knowledge, that data to be able to provide high leverage instruction, so that way we're getting to that deep learning. And we know that not one person has those answers, so collaboration and community has to be built in. We have to give teachers an opportunity to see other teachers' work, talk about what's working. How can we find a way to connect a social studies and an ELA classroom working on a project that is the same thing, but two different products maybe, right? How do we build this cohesion? And just continuing to build professional growth and leadership for our teachers to do that. And this was kind of our take on those 4 levels that Liftoffs had, but like I said, we kind of combined them. How do we leverage the technology to personalize learning, knowing we have AI at our fingertips? How do we take that, accelerate some of that baseline knowledge so we can spend our time getting to that deep stuff, building human connections, understanding what a student's passion is, and tailoring their instruction to that passion. So our K-4 learners have access to a program now called eSpark. That is a program that allows, it's reading, writing, and math generated. It leverages AI to personalize their experience. So let's say in their literacy instruction, they are working on a certain letter blend. And when it's time to use this program will allow a 3rd grader, let's say, to choose a character that they're really interested in, choose a topic. Let's say they love basketball and they want their character to score 40 points. This will generate a decodable text that is specific to that letter blend that they're working on with their character, their story, and help engage them in that reading, but also that skill. And I think it's important to note that we're not talking about students doing that all day, 15 minutes a day. It's small doses. It's little pieces of when a teacher is working in small groups with a group of students. Now we have a really high leverage, immediate feedback tool that the kids working in their desk have access to. So it's like working with another teacher and multiplying our teachers by leveraging that technology. And so working through that.
Is that eSpark being used only in the classrooms now? I should know, I've got a K-4 kid. Or is that also at home where you can leverage that?
The students would have access to it at home. We would caution you not to use it too much though, because there could be what I would say maybe a plateau. They might still enjoy it, but they might not eventually see the gains they might see if you overuse it. But
Okay.
they still might find it fun.
Law of diminishing marginal return.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, my kid, yeah.
And so we just shared this with our teachers, just understanding that these are the pieces that when we plan PD that we want to make sure is included. When we're doing our educator effectiveness, these are the things we're giving feedback on. To just create that alignment around the idea that we believe learning should be personal, purpose-driven, and future-focused. Community of learners, educators, and families working together to prepare students for a world that won't wait. Through innovative learning experiences and strong relationships, we empower every learning to thrive in a dynamic, diverse future.
And just to add before you turn over to any questions you might have, obviously this is something that administratively we spent a lot of time on this summer. We did a 3-day retreat sponsored by DPI on it. We spent a couple days on it during our admin retreat, so we spent a lot of time working on this whole framework. And not to mention last year, we spent some time on it as well. So this is a lot of effort that's gone into this, and I will tell you, it's not, as I told the staff, we're kind of blazing our own path on this. We are a trendsetter in this. It's a shift of a mindset. It's not a one-time, we're gonna do it for a year and move on. This is a complete shift in a mindset, trying to figure out a way to better reach kids through engagement as the core sense of it. Because if you aren't engaged in what's happening, you're not gonna learn it. So that's what we're looking to do. And channel 8, 9, CBS. Which one's CBS? 7. All right. It's the only one I didn't have between 7, 8, 9. Was here today to kind of talk to us about our kickoff of school, and that was one of the things we really focused on. So there should be a story on that at 5, I think there was, maybe throughout the night. So,
Question?
Comment
feel like this is something that we would see at the convention and we would bring it back in hindsight, and it's really nice to be on the other side of it, saying, oh, look what we're doing. I could see you coming down and presenting, you know, this to everyone else. I think it's great. So great that I would like it to be maybe not a standing agenda item, but, you know, a frequent, where are we at in a couple months? Where are we at? What have we done? Like, just brief updates would, I think, would be really helpful, because this is really new and exciting. And I think especially the image of the two classrooms, 75 years apart, and they literally look identical. I mean, maybe there's a table instead of a desk, right? But that's basically the only change you say. I think that really strikes a chord.
But I think that the question has always been out there, how to engage students from years. I remember talking about this when my kids were in school. You know, how do we get kids to be motivated to 1 out of 10 class? One of them was being in sports or being in some type of extracurricular activity. So it's not something like new, it's always been there, but how do we keep making it change? So we just gotta move forward. So
And
it's
that-
always that same question that's been there for years.
That was a message we really tried to help our, I guess, that we spoke to with our staff was, folks, we have been talking about this for
Yes.
15 years, how to re-engage students, but the question is, how do you sustain that? How do we build systems to make sure that a 3-month progress doesn't go back? Because it's really easy to go back to old ways, right? That's why we continue to do that. So how do we build a system? And that's where we're really hoping, by creating a framework for teaching and learning and always bringing it back to those, that we can hopefully sustain that and really build some purpose for our students in their educational process. And now we also have technology that is helping us really personalize that experience for kids to create that autonomy. We all know if we're gonna be intrinsically motivated people, all of us want some form of autonomy, right? We all want some of that, and so how do we give that to students to some?
Right, and that's the
build
part
that.
that's, I think, you're right, the engagement conversation has been there in my 26 years of education, it's always been there. I think what's different is the way we're approaching answering the question, because a lot of times, you might have heard me say this, we're the only industry that's still in operation that has never gone through a major revolution. You know, the sign of the picture of 75 years is proof of that. And we're looking at creating a revolution to change the way we completely think about how we're going to approach it. That's the part that's different.
And Tom, I got a question, sorry.
No, that's okay, go ahead.
I know there's probably some of this in here, but what about the teachers? What are you doing for the teachers so they can keep up and ahead of the kids?
Yeah, so
'Cause like you said, different generations are
Yeah.
gonna struggle with this.
Two-pronged approach is really making sure that when we have in-service time, making sure that we have some kind of learning opportunity for them. With that Liftoffs partnership, we get 2 in-district days of people who have specialized in this work, one of which is up for doctoral dissertation of the year for student engagement, and so.
In the country.
In the country. So they'll be here, and so we've kind of structurally planned it that they're here sometimes on our PD days to deliver learning, but also on days we have students here to deliver coaching, and actually being in classrooms with our teachers. And then also making sure that we're getting in and doing that learning, so when we're in classrooms, we're giving feedback too. What's really awesome is with any AI-generated tool that we're providing students, there's also a teacher side. So eSpark, for example, has a side that they call Nova, which is their teaching assistant. And so that takes the data that's created from the student side and helps provide AI-generated teacher content help. So let's say my students are working through a certain skill in week 1. What this Nova teacher assistant will do is take the data of how students are performing and give you suggested recommendations for your small group stuff next week, saying these 3 students are really struggling on this letter blend. These 4 are actually really advanced. I would recommend this enrichment activity to push them a little bit and help kind of hopefully streamline some of that process. So we're also trying to find ways to integrate AI in teacher practices to help save them some time too.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that I read this book a while back and I thought it was really insightful. As a parent, if you have young children, I would recommend it to anyone. So I was really glad that you guys read it. I love a lot of the new things that you're talking about, that you're doing doing, because that's so important to stay relevant. Some of the suggestions in the book too, you know, also talks about even just kind of going back to more of the basics. Have you guys talked about, you know, any of that, things like, well, for instance, we did get rid of the, you know, implemented the no cell phone policy, which is so important, also a suggestion from the book, but like, just focusing on more free play time and more independence for kids, you know, they suggest that for social development. I know we talk so much about social emotional learning now, and, you know, maybe some of that stuff might be a good addition to some of that part of what we're doing.
Yeah, and some of that, you know, you talk about the independence, and some of that's gonna be part of the personalized learning component. But I think the other thing is we've had the opportunity to go see a school, the superintendent I'm really good friends with there, a year ahead of us on this journey. I've been working with these guys for 3 years. And one of the things you would see in that classroom is they're using some of this technology, but it's not kids on a computer per se. I mean, you got kids teaching each other. You've got kids working in small groups with communication skills. They're asking each other questions. I mean, so some of that stuff you're talking about, that communication is happening in the classroom. And they're able to then explore and do a bunch of different stuff. So yeah, that we're not forgetting about that part of it either.
That's good. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, all right. So obviously there's a lot to this, which is good. It seems like the schools are obviously taking the bull by the horns and owning this, but obviously this is more of a systemic problem at home and in the community. How are we engaging like the community and parents to be able to leverage some of this stuff and I guess help you guys? It seems like, I mean, there's a lot to this and there's no way you can just do it in the schools.
I would echo Calandra's comment that if I could get as many parents to read The Anxious Generation as possible, it would help us a lot. It was far more eye-opening to me as a parent than it was as an educator. But we've talked about how do we, you know, we've talked, Jenny is the person whose dissertation is up for, how could we get her to do a presentation for our parents to understand? So, like, we've talked about it. I don't have a great solution. It is part of what we know has to happen. But that's a work in progress.
Yeah, we're having
for
conversations
sure.
about do we bring her in during a parent-teacher conference and have her do a session, because she talks an awful lot about just the difference in generations, and the differences in these kids, and you know, and it's, you know, I mean, it's simple things, you know, you can think back to how many of us wore a bike helmet when we rode our bike, but how many of your kids would you allow to ride a bike now without a bike helmet? You know, I mean, just, you know, you think about, you slept in the back seat of the car out of a seatbelt, and now if you don't have your seatbelt on, your car's dinging at you. You know, so just it's all these generational changes that have occurred, and that's where we're looking to bring her in to talk to our parents about that, and you know what that means, what the impact of that is, how they can help us in that process as well. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be a lift for all, but we want to try to get our house in order, and then we'll start.
Some of you went to the in-service, there was a lot of energy at the in-service. A lot of it was directed to this. I went to your presentation a little bit. This isn't gonna happen overnight. This is gonna take baby steps and time, but the engagement part is the key.
Several years ago, we went to Hayward and we observed their reading program, which is generated similar to what you're talking about here, and how the kids in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, how the progression of this was, and it was awesome. It's exactly what you're talking about. We saw how it works and how the kids themselves do the program without much direction from the teacher. And so it's exciting. It's exciting seeing that this is happening here.
Other questions? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom.
Item 7, public forum. The public forum provides the public with the opportunity to ask questions, address issues. The school board president runs it. There is a clipboard back there, or you have the clipboard. Do we have anybody? We have one person. The rules haven't changed. You get 3 minutes. There's no personal attacks. You can come to the podium and state your name, address. I will raise my hand when it's at 2:45, and then 3 o'clock, 3 minutes, we're done. Okay?
Lori Notsky, address is 2005 Seville Road in Cronenwetter. And then just for background, I'm a teacher at the high school here. It says year 13 for me at the high school, and I'm also the Mosinee Education Association president. I was not planning on speaking to you all tonight, but I was sitting in on the personnel committee, and as a result of a discussion in the personnel committee, I felt like I needed to sign up and just share some information. So I'm sorry for about 2/3 of you. This might be a little bit confusing, but hopefully will make sense shortly. So there was a discussion in personnel about co-curricular contracts. And I just wanted to kind of provide some teacher perspective on this. Teachers have just had an additional duty added to our normal teaching day contract. This year, it has reduced our prep time by about half of what it was previously, and teachers have been very accepting of the need for this change and taking on that additional workload, given the necessity to do that and some of the budget constraints that we are seeing and those different challenges. And we have all pretty much said, yep, we're willing to take on those additional duties. Co-curricular positions exist outside of our normal teaching contract. They have always been an additional contract because they involve extensive time outside of our 7:40 to 3:40 teaching day. And many of these positions historically can be difficult to fill even when they're provided as an additional contract, as that extracurricular pay. And if we start lumping co-curricular contracts in with a regular teaching assignment, I anticipate you will see a lot of your teachers looking at other districts or leaving the profession altogether because the workload will be far too much. I don't know of any area districts, and I could be wrong, but the ones that I'm familiar with, I don't know of any who lump co-curricular advising positions in with their normal teaching duties. And then there's the question of inequities that could result from assigning co-curricular positions. Those positions currently are paid on a schedule that has different stipend levels based on the workloads for those different positions, and how you kind of lump all of that into a teaching contract gets into a lot of inequities. And that's what I had. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We will now move to item 8, consent agendas. We did have one agenda item that was requested to be pulled out in the personnel. That item was 5.2. It was the 25-26 co-curricular positions contract, which Mrs. Natsky spoke to. Were there any ones from the finance or curriculum? So with that, I'm going to ask.
I was gonna say, the only thing I had on the finance committee was we pulled off item 6D for the audit firm quotes. We were just gonna postpone that until we had time to give an
Okay,
RFP.
you just postponed it. You don't-
Postpone it until, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So with that, what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna ask if I can get a motion to accept all the consent items that were approved, and then we will talk about the item that was pulled out.
Okay, I have to, I have a check that's in the finance thing. Do I do that now or?
Yep,
do it-
yep.
Yep.
Okay. So I need to.
To abstain from a check? Okay? All right, so consent item, I'll seek a
I'll make the
motion.
motion to approve.
Motion by Gorman to accept all the ones that were approved. Second by Stankowski. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We will now go to the item 5.2, the 25-26 co-curricular positions. And Greg, I'll let you pull it up.
Oh, can you pull it up? For me?
Pull it.
Gotta get it here, so. It's, yeah, pull up, yeah, that one right there. You're gonna have to go, all right, I'll.
You have to go to personnel.
Yeah, you're gonna have to go out, You have to go all the way out. Here, can I override you, Christie?
I couldn't get to it.
Oh,
Or not?
yeah.
I just want everybody to see this, so you know what a reference is.
I'll roll it up once I get it out.
Okay, thank you.
So this is the list of the co-curricular positions we have in the district that are on the schedule, used to be called Schedule G, now it's Schedule F, because it's Appendix F now, I believe it is, on the employee handbook. These are the positions that are part of those, and the individual who is under these. These are separate contracts, much like a coaching contract, much like you say, it's the same kind of contract that you give your football coach, your basketball coach, your wrestling coach, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Jessica, you're the one that wanted it
Yep,
pulled out?
yep,
I'll let you
absolutely.
speak, go ahead.
So years back, and I'm sure that Diane can attest to this as well, this goes back as far as David, maybe even as far as Ann, that we had talked about reviewing some of these and making it part of a contract, the staff contract. Just because it made, its potential, one, cost-saving measure, and two, it makes logistical sense. So just, I'm not trying to pick out any particular position, but if you have a specific subject, such as, and I have to make a bit of an identification just to give an example, but if you have FFA, and if you have an agriculture teacher, what other person is going to do the FFA additional duty? Most other staff members don't even have that educational background to be that additional person. So as a way to cut back on perhaps an administrative oversight, paperwork, why not just put that as part of the contract? Now, what if you have a staff member that says, I don't wanna do that? Well, then what happens to that particular program? Does it go away, that club, or what have you? So it's a way of looking at being more efficient, in terms of the process and perhaps the pay.
Yes, I do remember talking about that back in early David days. And it was supposed to be looked at, reviewed, because some of the positions there was positions that were added, taken out, that need to be upgraded, changed, and yep, we're gonna look at it, we're gonna do it, and it never happened. It just kept falling by the wayside. So, and you also wanna make sure you have the best person for that position. You don't wanna have any, like, if she's using FFA, well, you don't want, an English teacher taking on that responsibility when you have somebody that's more well-versed in that program than that said person. So it's not that you would be cutting the pay necessarily, it would just be written in cleaner language, so you can get rid of, there might be things in this appendix F now that don't even exist.
we actually went through that this last spring, took
Okay.
out stuff that no longer exists.
And I'm just using that as an
Right.
example,
Yeah, no,
but
I'm just saying,
it
you
was
did
just to
clean that
make
up.
it cleaner,
It's a large list to manage.
yes.
I don't know of another school district that puts it in the teaching contract.
But we can be first,
Was that?
we can be a first,
I'm not, I'm just,
and we can do it right.
well,
Maybe I'm not understanding either. So all the contracts, so like an FFA teacher, just because we're picking on that one, is their contract identical to what like an English teacher would be? Like if we were to write this in there,
No, we
I.
would-
Well, no, you wanna assign it to the appropriate
You would assign it
person,
to
yeah.
the role and the responsibility
Yeah,
for
right.
that specific.
Every teaching
Right.
contract is the exact
Right.
same contract, it's just a male merge that equal
Yep,
the
and that's
name.
what I was
Right.
wondering, so this is all a
Yes.
generic one that we would now be customizing each
No,
individual
you could just
position.
put an addendum to it. It would still be, the contract itself would be the same, but in terms of efficiency, it just, to me, it doesn't pass a common sense test to have all of these different things when it could just be a quick addition to that page 3 or page whatever. a quick addendum to that.
To a
So that
contract
it-
for the for that
For
specific
whatever,
position.
whatever
So,
teachers.
What I understand you're saying is like for FFA, instead of having this on here, we would make it an addendum, which would basically be this contract as an addendum to our
Right,
current
because
contract.
what if you're not, I mean, because they're two separate things right now, why not bring them together? Otherwise, you may miss one of these staff members.
Okay.
It's just
So
two
if we're doing
separate
that, I guess where's
processes
the
and you're combining.
cost, where's the cost savings then? With that, I'm just
Well,
curious.
because who knows, I don't know, I don't wanna assume that if when they went through this, did we look at what we're paying for each of these? Are these in line with what other districts are doing?
One of the concerns I have is that when you start doing this and they're looking at different districts, they may say, well, I'm not going to Mosinee. I've got all these extra duties to do, and the pay doesn't equate that. I wonder if we'll lose some of our competitiveness, for you saying, well, I gotta do these 10 other things and I'm not getting any compensation for it.
But that's not what's being necessarily proposed.
No, I know,
So how is it currently, like last year, how was this structured? Like this?
Yes,
yes,
Okay.
So if you're doing if you're, I'm assuming you volunteer to be the middle school
You
drama
apply.
teacher, or you
You apply.
apply? And then if you're getting paid to do that extra work.
much the same way a coach is.
Right. Sure, and I mean, if I'm expected to do extra work, I would expect to be compensated for it. I don't personally think the juice is worth the squeeze here.
Saying not compensate them, just put it in their teaching contract, right?
That's what I was gonna say. I think some of them make sense. Like I said, the FFA one or whatever, like I said, it makes sense to not have an English teacher
Right,
doing
you
a
just wanna
math
marry
club.
the
I
two
don't know. I'm
together, you
just-
want the best
yeah, I don't
person
wanna-
for that position.
Right.
If you had a child in that classroom or that program, you wanna make sure that they're getting the best quality person to
we
fill.
still have the applicant process.
Right, I was gonna say, I
Yeah,
still
but you're
think
still
you.
applying,
And
you're
it
not
can change if
appointing.
somebody who doesn't wanna do it anymore, you find somebody else.
So,
You put it in someone else's contract.
Are you kind of suggesting that when this person applies to be a math teacher, you're also gonna be in charge of the math club? It's probably gonna be you. Or,
It could be, it depends, because there's multiple math teachers,
Yeah.
but then
Right.
there's only
Mhm.
one FFA.
Right.
But there's ways to do this more efficiently, so maybe, it goes off of, if there's multiple math additional duties, I mean, there's a sea of things here. But then, okay, every math teacher has to take on, let's say there's 5 different math types of clubs or additional duties, then every person should have one.
What are we
So-
gonna do with long-term subs? Let's say somebody has a leave of absence and we hire a long-term sub for the FFA teacher and that person can't do, cause a lot of this stuff isn't done during
That
the day.
happened last year.
I know.
It did some do.
Yeah,
They just find a sub to fill in.
so.
But what I'm saying is, if part of their contract is that they have to run the club, somebody may not be able to do that. Cause a lot of this is done at night, after school.
Find someone else, take it out of the original
But-
person's contract it and put.
That's what I feel like.
I
I don't
think-
know
I
that
think
you're
we're
short,
doing-
I don't know that you're making this list go away. You might tie it to a position
Yeah.
when you hire it, but I don't know that the list goes away.
So, just clarification, so if you're applying for an English position,
Yep.
English teaching position. So, high school, middle school,
Yep.
whatever, in that contract, it's going to say you may be responsible for, is that the addendum that you are asking for? Or that in that job description, for all English teachers, you may have to, in your school, be part of the forensics? Coach, you may have to, is that what you're proposing?
Perhaps not. I don't know what is now being, if nobody volunteers, does it just go to the wayside and it doesn't exist?
Yes, that's what happens. The job's not filled, and that club or whatever activity doesn't meet.
Okay, so just for clarification for this discussion purpose, are we looking at changing contracts and making a requirement? Are we looking at cleaning up this list? Are we looking at the application? Like, I guess I'm a little confused on what we're talking
The
about
initial
right now.
administrative recommendation was to approve this list. That was the recommendation by the administration,
Okay.
not to change anything.
Was there a pay increase that came with the new schedule?
No.
You approved the schedule last month
Yes.
during the
Okay.
employee handbook approval.
I'm wondering if we're just asking what already was done to clean the list up.
And perhaps we can do that for next year, just find it, to me, it's just harder to manage two separate lists.
Well, it's too late to do it this year because contracts have already been signed and issued.
Yep, absolutely, completely agree. This is just a very large list to manage.
It was just getting larger and larger, and we were just trying to make it more streamlined.
Are you thinking along the same lines of how you brought up before, like the number of kids in this sport, looking at the number of kids in this club?
Right.
Is kind of what you're.
Right, you know, cause you wanna be able to handle it, cause you mean, there's a dollar amount associated with this too. And to watch the budget, if you know it's tied in, whether we'll use FFA, you know that's always gonna be in that annual budget for that portion of it. But if you start to have kids drop and they're not gonna be in there, is that position?
We have
There's things
that-
you gotta look at.
We
If it's
already
tied
have
to the
that.
contract, that's gonna be a lot harder to pull it out though.
Yes.
Well, you would, and again, I'm just using that as an
But I mean, I'm
example.
just saying, if you tie it to the contract,
We already have that.
okay, let's just hypothetically say you tie it to the contract that you issue to the teacher on April 15th, that they have to return to you by June 15th. And that's an addendum, and that's signed. And then we go to Trees for Tomorrow, and nobody signs up for it.
Right.
That contract is out, you're obligated to pay it. You can't back out
So
of
then
it. In
how
this
is it-
system, you could back out of it.
Right, that's a catch.
How? Because it's still a contract.
But it's
Yeah.
not tied to it, it's a contract you can hand out when you know what you're dealing with, cause you have more time to analyze the situation versus handing the contract out on April 15th. You're binding yourself, in my opinion,
I agree.
you're binding yourself to a larger thing, and now, right now, the way contracts are, this is all a mail merge and a fairly simplistic process. If we're starting to add addendums to it, we've now complicated a fairly simplistic process, because now you're having to, basically, all you're doing is taking the contract you would be issuing them tomorrow and issuing it to them 2 months ago and call it an addendum instead of having two separate contracts.
I'm wondering if you're not thinking along the lines of, we just wanna clean this up and make sure we have adequate people, kids, in these co-curriculars, and we're not wasting our money
Correct.
foolishly.
Correct.
Right.
But see, now, to me, what I'm hearing you say, Greg, is a contract is not a contract. These are two very different things then.
What do you mean?
So a teaching contract, like you said, it's got the deadlines,
Yep,
it's
yep.
binding. This is binding, but there's no deadlines tied to it. And that's
Because
why
these
there's
are,
a
because
separation.
the one thing you have to understand is, extracurricular contracts are at-will employees, teacher contracts are not. Because they're at-will employees, it's a one-year contract. I could decide tomorrow, because I see Matt Lindsay's there, I could decide tomorrow that Matt Lindsay, I could decide in March that Matt Lindsay did a horrible job as a basketball coach this year, and I could fire him. And it's an at-will employee, he's got no recourse with which to do anything about it. But if it's a teaching contract, there's a lot of different variable opportunities you have to go through. He has rights that you have to abide by, like proof of reasons why. There's a lot of more work and more proof and more data and more time that goes into it. So when you're talking co-curricular and extracurricular, they're at-will employees. They're only there when you at-will them to be there. With a teaching contract, the world is a completely different animal, because of the statutory language around a teaching contract.
Then that makes sense. That makes perfect sense then. But to Paul's point, I think we should always try to clean this up and review it, because Lord knows if when's the last time we even went through it and took out positions or clubs that don't exist?
Wow,
Years.
administration did it in March
Right, but
of
it's
last
probably
year.
been years.
Well, we did it in March. I don't know how long it was before that, but we sat down in March, didn't we? You, me, Jolene, and Brad, and went through line item by line item.
We
and-
did it again in August this year,
Yep,
but
got rid of
I
some.
can't speak to previously.
Right.
to that.
Well,
So
the
you,
other thing
so
I'm
you don't know if
worried about
anything
is-
was ever like removed or taken out or changed, like, cause I know some of the questions came up too, like some of the people were questioning, well, how do you choose that person for that position?
Right.
Are they picked
No.
Do they assign? Is there an application process?
I would say for some of the specialty ones that you guys are referencing, like if we interview some of these people, like this last year we hired band. Part of that process was just so you know you have pep band and you have, like, those became a non-negotiable as part of that hiring process.
But
for
that's
some
what
of
you know
those
you sign up
positions.
for.
That's some of those specialty, but now, there's not to say in 3 years down the road, that person says like, well, I don't want it, you know, and then that'd be a different conversation, but, that does happen. But we eliminated probably 6 or 7 that were on the list that that we couldn't say when the last time that group met, so it's,
Well, we
we
could.
have to stop reissuing those, because if you just, like you're saying, blindly renew the list, well, now somebody's collecting
I also wanna be
$100
clear,
to do anything.
when we talk pep band, you gotta realize, they're meeting outside of the school
Yeah,
day
yeah.
at a sporting event, a lot of it does. But I think.
But you
we
don't
could-
want anybody other
I
than
think
your
you could
grandparents
also
to do
amend
that.
the motion to, that every year, our administration should look at this list and come back with recommendations of things that are added and not added, and taken off the list, and not filled.
Yeah, we cleaned up,
Yeah.
we moved stuff around, in terms of the level, we got rid of a level, I mean, we did some things like that, to make it more consensual, and we got rid of some stuff that wasn't meeting. That was one of the things we did in this last school year, and then we reviewed it again in August.
Well, I think what had happened, and this was years ago, and just remember this, some of these items were actually in the building's budget, and all of a sudden they went into this appendix, now it's appendix G. And all of a sudden it just ballooned, and that's what happened years ago, and where it kinda turned into a mess. So that's why we're trying to say, keep an eye on
And
this one.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, you know, that some of this stuff, you know, it's all based on what you wanna see. Like, you're gonna have a department chair. Do you need to formally go through that process, or do you just, you know, I mean, like, you need to see all the names on the list? I mean, that is a position that's applied for by department, or a team lead. You know, but this stuff ebbs and flows, and I think one of the things that the district wants to be careful of is this district has prided itself on the diversity of club offerings we offer to our kids beyond just athletics. We've prided ourselves on that, so if we start pulling some of that away, then we're actually taking away some of the fabric that we say we are as a district. Because I will tell you, one of the things that was very intriguing to me during the interview process was the large number of non-sport opportunities for kids in this district, which I will tell you is not common for a school this size, which I think is something that this district needs to applaud, is that we do provide kids opportunities beyond just the traditional sports, and provide kids opportunities in a lot of different ways to be, we just gotta talk about engagement. What better way to engage
That is
kids
Yeah.
than to
It is
engage
the
them in
best.
your school system in some way? Because otherwise, you know, I came from a place that was sport-based only. You disenfranchised a large number of your kids, because if they didn't play sports, they had no connection to the fabric of your school. And so with these other opportunities, whether that be, you know, the Trees for Tomorrow, or FCCLA, or, you know, some of these other ones that you see on here, Skills USA, graphics, art, you know, those are opportunities that kids have to feel connected to the district, that, and to the school system and that
Totally
school
agree.
spirit.
But it's about like, if, let's say a club only has 2 kids,
Yep.
but then that's not effective and efficient or
Right.
worth the time. So
Right.
it's, do we put those types of protocols on, you have to make sure you always maintain 7 or 10, or do we do that? Are we monitoring that?
Right,
The not- the
I would say we're
participation?
monitoring. I would say the difficulty with that is everyone is different. You know, what it takes to run a quality FFA program is different in number than what it's gonna take to run a quality middle school ski club. You know, so you know, I mean, I can tell you right now, as I sat and helped, I was part of the group that put together the sports numbers, sports caps, ratios, that alone was a mess. It wasn't a mess, but that alone was a very detailed conversation about, all right, numbers to that you need on the field or on the court or on the rink or whatever versus all, you know, like, I think what we do administratively is we use a consensual approach to this, which is what
And we
makes
should,
sense.
Cause if you're paying somebody, I just don't
Yep.
even know, $1,500 to manage 2 kids in the club,
Correct.
that just doesn't make sense.
Correct, and we use a consensual approach to that, which I think is sometimes better than putting numbers where you finite yourself into you pigeonhole yourself.
I feel
into an
comfortable that
opportunity.
our administration is looking at this and getting rid of things or adding or doing what they need to do.
I think
Just-
that, I agree with that, and I think that when they are looking at it, and let's say there is a club or an activity that's numbers are dwindling, I think rather than going to the default of, we're gonna cut it, it would be more like, well, how do we get more kids involved in this? I think Kurt, in one of his interviews with us, brought up a point when he was the AD at East, on their, you know, come pick your classes night, that every single club was set up throughout the school, and all kids were required to be in something. The safest schools are the schools where kids feel connected, and it doesn't have to be to a team, it can be to a club or whatever, but to make sure that all kids are involved in something, keep a large plethora of opportunities, and give it to the admin every year to make sure that the numbers are looking good, and if not, how do you get more kids engaged in that?
And I understand what Jessica and Diane are saying, let's be efficient about it. We don't wanna waste money.
Correct.
How much money is involved in this? Just
It is a lot.
Was it over
It
like
is.
300?
It's probably in the hundreds of
400,000?
thousands.
Yeah, I
It's not a small.
just in that portion of it.
No, what would you say? 100?
Let's say 100.
Is that low?
Yeah.
There, but again, I think.
Are you talking salary or are you talking total budget?
No, no,
So,
yeah.
But I think we have, Mosinee has taken a lot of pride in things that are not totally athletic. I mean, our band, our choir, our FFA, I mean, it's big.
our musical.
Our musical, it's our variety show.
And the other
Even at the
thing-
middle school, our drama performances, and all of them are just really amazing.
I'll
And
make a
again-
motion to approve, this recommendation with, going forward, ensuring that there's always an administrative review of this on an annual basis for efficiency and cost saving measures.
We have a motion by Maple to recommend the 25-26 co-curricular position contracts with administrative oversight and
I'll
evaluation.
second it.
We have a second by Canadian. Any more discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, we are going to go to item 9, discussion of possible decision approval of monthly voucher list. That'll be a roll call vote. Any discussions? Do we have one abstention, correct? Donna, do you need to abstain for something?
Check number, I just had it here, 2526000003.
Okay, otherwise we'll do a roll call vote.
Need a motion.
I mean, I'm sorry. Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by
I'll
Ness.
second.
Second by Gorman. Any more discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Try to do this online.
All right, take your time.
Knadler,
Yes.
Yes.
Zebro,
Yes.
Gorman,
Yes.
Kaiser,
Yes, but except for the,
Maple,
Yes.
Stankowski,
yes.
Kaminsky,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Item
Did
10.
you say yes?
Oh.
Yes, sir.
Discussion, possible decision, acceptance of monthly treasurer's report. Discussion.
I'll make a motion to
Got a
approve.
motion by Nest,
I'll second.
second by Bauer. Any more discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Zebro,
Yes.
Gorman,
Yes.
Kaiser,
Yes.
Maple,
Yes.
Stankowski,
Yes.
Kaminsky,
Yes,
Bauer,
Yes.
Ness,
Yes.
Knadler.
Yes.
motion carries. Item 11, new business. Discussion and possible decision, Booster Club endorsements.
This is our annual Booster Club endorsement, annual thing we have to do every August. This is the month we're in right now.
I'll make a motion to approve.
There you go.
We
Second.
have a motion by Gorman, a second by Bauer. Any discussion?
Did all of them reply or no?
Jackie, did we get feedback from everybody? Pretty much?
I think we've got quite everybody.
Yep, but we gave them ample opportunity, sent the letter,
Are-
notified them.
Are we individually approving or lump
We're gonna lump.
Yep.
copy?
We got
so-
6 responses, sorry,
So 6 out of.
out of 12.
But,
So
go
the,
ahead, I'm sorry.
so the question would be then, remember when we looked at that gym schedule?
They can request it any time with him, he has the right to approve it.
Okay.
It's in our policy.
Okay, because otherwise.
So if
you're
somebody
gonna have some
forgot,
upset
and all of a
clubs,
sudden says, oh, we messed up,
And we're not,
and
and we're getting
he has the
charged.
right, not punishing, he has the right to approve that
Okay.
at any time.
It could be that the person that we had in our records to send.
Is
to
no longer the
wasn't
person.
in charge anymore,
Okay.
so.
Any more discussion?
Board member changes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. 11.2, discussion and possible decision, clubs and groups seeking the fee waiver status.
Which is basically the same thing as above.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Motion by Gorman,
I'll second.
second by Zebro. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item 11.3, discussion and possible decision, annual meeting agenda
Yep.
2025.
This is just the annual meeting for next month. Remember, the annual meeting and the board meeting are happening at the same time. Just want to point out, this is for approval, so we recommend approval. It's the same agenda that we had last month, or last year, that, at last year's annual meeting, the location was set as the district office out at Boulevard, so the meeting has to move out there next month for the annual meeting of the board.
Also note that we will be taking our board picture at that meeting.
Thank you.
Okay?
So I need a motion. and a
Any more
second.
discussions?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Kaiser,
I'll second.
second by Zebro.
Why can't it be here?
Because the motion was made at last year's annual meeting to have
We
it out
set a
there
location last year.
at the last year's annual meeting, and we can't change the decision of the annual meeting.
It's the law. It's the law. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
I inquired, Joe.
Motion
The
carries.
lawyer told me I couldn't.
11.4, discussion policy 0144.1, board compensation.
I only put I only put the policy number on there just for your reference, but, you know, the annual meeting sets board compensation. And what I wanna make sure we understand at this coming annual meeting, is whoever makes the motion, hopefully reflects, kind of what the desire is. So a couple things that the board needs to make sure is, or whoever makes this motion, the board doesn't have to, any electorate member can, is, and the board needs to think about is, what do you want to do with the maximums? Do you want to keep the maximum dollar amount on there, or do you want to eliminate the maximums? Because that came up as a question this last fiscal year. And the second one is the motion needs to also articulate the dollar, the 14 meter maximum stipend, along with the dollar amounts provided to those that are running committees and serve on officer positions. So I just want to make sure that we capture everything and we do not expose ourselves down the line to where we're doing something that's not completely articulated in the board, in the annual meeting motion. I want to make sure we're covered on all grounds on this.
And I just want everybody to know I was contacted by two board members about possibly eliminating the max that board members get in compensation.
So-
Because they're going to meetings, and some people felt that, so whoever's gonna make that motion, understand exactly what he's saying. It has to be done at the annual meeting.
Yeah. So I don't know if the board wants to talk about it now, or if you wanna let whatever happen at the board meeting, or if you wanna put a bug in somebody's ear about exactly what you want them to articulate at the board meeting next month, or at the annual meeting, I'm sorry. But I just wanna make sure that we understand what we're staring at here, to make sure that we're all, we're good on what the motion needs. The questions that really need to be answered are, do you want the maximum or not? If you want the maximum, then the motion basically will stay similar to what it was last year. If you don't want the maximum, then you don't talk about a maximum in the motion. And then we have to make sure we articulate that the $1,400, or 14 meetings gets you the additional stipend along with the board officer and board committee chairperson language to make sure that that's completely articulated so that way, because everything is said at the annual meeting, and whatever says at the annual meeting, nobody has the authority to fix until the next.
So essentially, that's what we did. Last year, we did add additional pay for the president, all the seats, and chairing the committee. But then the maximum didn't change, so.
Correct, the
essentially
maximum was, yes, the maximum was still in the motion, so we were obligated to stay. So ultimately, whoever makes the motion, in my opinion, has three decisions. You either keep the maximum the same, increase the maximum, or get rid of the maximum. I guess you could decrease the maximum too. I guess you have four decisions. You know, it's kind of the way I look at it. I always try to, what are the decisions I need to make, and let's take this large question down to the essential questions.
Well, I guess you don't wanna see board members not attending conferences because of this, or not getting compensated for the work that they've done. So that's what we gotta look into, because that was added as, like you're saying, the board chairs and.
I would say a maximum is uncommon in my experiences. Typically, it's one of two things. Either you get a per meeting pay or an annual pay. And there's a lot of arguments I've heard against an annual pay. I personally would do a per meeting pay. But I would say that the maximum is an uncommon thing, and it probably came into play because somebody was attending everything, and so it just was a way to curtail some of that. But I think it's a bottom line of, you know, what is the intent of what you want to accomplish.
And that's more just for everybody's information, okay? Okay, any more discussion on it? Just so everybody's clear, we kind of looked into the legality of it and went from there. Okay, 11.5, discussion possible decision 25-26 proposed school district budget.
Turn it over to Rod now, our budget expert.
Bring it up, Christie.
Check Rod's.
All right, first off, biggest thing, we'll probably be balanced if I budgeted, I budgeted estimated conservatively, so. Revenues, pretty much in line with expenditures for Fund 10. Here's some of the bigger items. The state budget, $325 per pupil increase. The open enrollment ins and outs increased by 12.7%, and we are to the good, unless, we were to the good plus 20 at least last year, so we should be to the good at least that much.
Which means more revenue.
Which means more, yeah, when you're figuring 10,000 per kid. So for plus 20, we're 200,000 right there. But what really helped was the special ed categorical E going from 30% to 40%. Other things not related to state budget. WRS went up. I haven't seen that big of a jump ever. It went up 0.25%, which ends up being 3.6% increase. Health insurance went up 10, dental on 1.5. Of course, the whole budget is derived by enrollment, and we still have declining enrollment. We will for the foreseeable future. I don't know if I'll have an official enrollment at the September meeting because it's third Friday and fourth Tuesday, but we can have rough numbers, and then in October I'll have a nice clean summary of the membership for the meeting. Want to go to the next page, Christie?
Before you go to the next page,
Oh.
Chrissy, never mind, you can stay on this one, it's on this page too, I wanna reference something.
All right, so the revenue limit, where we get 85% of our funding, you can see we're only having 120,000 of new money. That's because the 325 is going up 2.9%, but then declining enrollment is sucking away the revenue. So only 120,000, which actually works out to a 0.5% increase, whereas inflation is 2.95% increase. So, yeah, we're paying for everything, utilities isn't gonna go down, just, you know. So everything still's going up, but we're still balanced this year, it's just next year is, you know, we'll get to that, but state aid. So part of the state budget, you got the $325 per pupil increase, but there was no state aid increase. None whatsoever.
So can you talk, Rod, about what that means to the taxpayer?
So that means any increase that we levy for is all local dollars, no state aid offsetting that, which we'll get to the next screen when we look at the tax levy. But, so last year's state aid, this year's state aid, and the state aid is based on enrollment, expenditures, and the valuation in the district. So less kids, less state aid, less expenditures, which we did cut positions last year and everything to save money to balance out this year. But that also means less state aid then. And valuation of the district's pretty strong, so that means less aid also. So we got basically 1.3 million less state aid than the prior year. And that's a rough estimate. That's using DPI's July 1st aid estimate, but their aid estimate is only as good as Milwaukee, Madison, Green Bay school districts' numbers, you know, because they're driving, you know, the state numbers, the big schools. And if they're accurate, then DPI is accurate. If they're off, because there's no reason they have to be on mid-June for DPI's July 1st, but the statute state July 1st, DPI has to give a state aid estimate. Doesn't matter if it has to be accurate. So they gave us one. I threw in our numbers. Hope we're in the ballpark. But remember that decrease, and if you go to the next page, Christy, here's the levy. So, big line, Fund 10, going up quite a bit of money there. The other lines we're holding our ground are, this is the referendum debt fund, service fund. We're actually able to decrease that. So, but our levy in total is going up 1.38. Well, if we got that state aid, we wouldn't have much levy increase. But people are gonna probably blame the referendum project for the big tax bill they get, so. How we communicate that to the public that doesn't come to the meetings, I don't know. We can give townships some letters.
Yep, we'll have to get that out, but
They might put it with,
But to be clear, what he's saying is the tax levy increase is not the referendum, it's the state budget where they put no new money into the revenue limit formula to increase state aid. That was the decision that, and the deal that was brokered between the governor and the legislative branch. Involved no new state aid. So the entire $325 per pupil increase falls on the backs of the taxpayers to fund.
Local
Yep.
taxpayers. So when people get their property tax bill, it is going to see probably about 11%
Well-
increase with the school?
okay, so why don't we go to the mill rates, Christie?
Okay.
All right, so using a 4% property valuation, here's what our mill rate would look like. We got an estimate from CISA that would be 11.84% increased valuation. I don't know if the parceled every township accurately, so I don't wanna run with that. But if we do get 11.84%, our mill rate goes to 596. Would be the mill rate, if our valuation instead of 4 is 11. But of that 11.84% valuation increase, how much is new building or renovations that are new to the tax, or Joe Smith's retiree that has a house that just went up 11.84%, but nothing else changed, so he's gonna see 11.84% more
Or
tax.
value, or reevaluate, reassessing.
Well, hopefully that isn't a big thing, because the state sees when townships reassess and they add on a factor if you haven't reassessed lately to year valuation, I call equalized valuation. So, you know, but they probably do catch some when townships do eventually reassess. So I guess any questions on those items?
Is that something we can help communicate? Like, obviously, I help represent Kimona Wetter, I can go to a meeting, we've got Emmett, like I said, if that's something we can help do.
Well, that,
Or-
when I was at, and I talked to Greg about this, when I was at the conference this summer, that was exactly what you said, is that we need to, inform our townships, we need to inform the people somehow through that. Now, the townships send out, letters at the end of the year, they could, if we give them what you said, why the tax rate has gone up and give the numbers, then the people in their, just be, when we get our tax
I'm
statement.
not sure how many townships will actually stuff their envelopes that way.
Well-
I think town of Mosinee might have.
But
They
they,
wanted at least a
but we
letter
get
from
a,
us.
we get a chart at the end of the year with how the taxes went up, why they went up,
It-
and this and that, so.
It'll also be a focal point of my link articles for the next, how many ever months until this is done.
Okay.
There's a lot of community members that don't get, or do they all get that? Or is it just
Some are
anybody that's
district-wide
enrolled?
mailing.
I was just gonna say, if it depends if it's
We're not,
district-wide mailing.
we're not the only school, every school district might have a problem.
Yep.
So I would recommend that we try to get the TV, you know, Wausau, Everest, Mosinee, get the TV people involved, saying, hey, this is why it's going up. And radio, whatever we can do, Mosinee Times, Daily Herald, any of the news outlets we can do to start informing people now
Right, and that it.
before it happens, because, I mean, every school district is gonna get hammered.
Yep.
Right, and
Yeah.
that the message is the same for all of them.
And like you said, you don't want it
well,
tied to the.
But we don't want the
referendum.
misinformation, which we're gonna
Right,
get.
yep.
Oh, you told me the referendum was gonna cost this much, you lied to me. And we know we have a transparency issue. People feel we have a transparency issue. So I definitely want everybody to know that this is what the referendum was, and this is what, as a result of that $325.
Right.
We've gotta do a pretty good job of doing
Yep.
that.
That'll be a focal point of the annual meeting, which will be how much the
And
referendum.
if we can get ahead of it, cause I
impacted
know
on
when the
that.
property tax bills go out for Cronin, they have an explanation of where your property
Oh,
taxes
yeah.
go and they break it out. And if
Yep.
we can get ahead of
They
it
do
and
too.
help
Yep.
So
manage that
bottom line
message.
is
that'd
we're
be
not
good.
gonna get as much from the state.
Correct.
So we gotta raise our
Taxes
real
locally.
estate tax.
Yep. Not good.
And a lot
Welcome
of
to the
people
board,
are gonna
Joel.
say, well, what else can you cut?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying.
Like I said, I think it'll be across the board, but we've got the referendum that I think we wanna make sure doesn't get
It
tied to that.
complicates it a little
increase,
bit.
Right.
Well, you don't want people to say, I'm never voting.
Right,
for
no,
a referendum
exactly.
Because you lied.
You wanna make sure you manage that message.
Yeah.
Yep, and we didn't lie to people. This was something that we did not believe would happen.
It
Not at
never
all.
crossed my mind.
No, me either.
I think this only happened when Act 10 came in and they changed everything pretty radically. It's the only time they ever froze state aid like this.
It was a compromise.
So then if you wanna flip to the next page, Christie, this is just the various funds. Fund 10 is the main fund, or it accounts for any transaction that isn't in a specific detailed fund. We got revenues, we got expenses. We got less revenue, as you'll see, but we've also hopefully keep expenses in line too, so. If you got any questions as we go, just yell. Otherwise, Special Projects Fund 21 is donation, scholarship, student activity accounts. Fund 27 is Special Ed Fund. Debt service is non-referendum and referendum is combined in those funds 38 and 39. Capital Projects Fund 46 is money we've stashed away for future projects. Right now, not estimating use any of that next year, kind of finish the referendum, then see where you're at. Food Service Fund, Fund 50, and then Fund 80, Community Service Fund. I would note on the last one, 24-25 activity reflects one SRO. So I budgeted an extra 100,000 for a second, potentially one in 25-26. If we end up getting 3 tomorrow, we would be under what the amount is, but it seems like they have a hard time maybe hiring, so we'll see how it goes. But community service fund is also the pool, middle school athletics, anything that would be community service related, those are the big ones. Any questions on any of the amounts?
Is this the format that is required to go into the paper?
This will pretty much what goes.
Okay. Is this how I guess maybe I should know the answer, but even as an accountant, I struggle to follow it sometimes, so I didn't know.
Well,
if
they
there
have
was a way you
different rules for
And
statutes.
So I was gonna say that your
Schools.
statutes lay out how you have to, and I was just curious if there's a,
Basically, our funding from the state is going down because our enrollment's going up.
It froze if you kept your enrollment the same, but because we have declining enrollment, it's less money per pupil we receive.
The state won't give us, the revenue we can generate is all based on enrollment.
Page 2.
But then you go from, so it's like A plus B equals C. C is the revenue limit, which is so much per pupil. A is the levy that you charge the taxpayers. B is the state aid that the state gives you. The state is giving us less state aid, so when you take C minus B, A has to increase to make up for B's decrease.
And they're giving us less state aid mainly because our enrollment's going up.
That and a couple
No.
other factors. Some
State
of it,
aid is,
state aid went down, but you also have to couple in the fact that the revenue that they allowed us to increase, they did not bring any state aid with it. So even if state aid stayed the same with that additional $325 per pupil, that revenue limit, the tax levy had to go up to make up that difference. You get what I'm saying?
Figure it this way. If our enrollment stayed exactly the same, with 325, that would be a 2.9% increase to the prior year's number. So this, we'd have a lot more money here.
Yeah.
If this is a half, so we'd be taking 6, we'd have $720,000 of new money. If we didn't have any enrollment, it was exactly the same as the year before. So that's where the declining enrollment comes in. We get less new money, but the state gave us new money. But that new money they gave us, they didn't give us any state aid to go with it, so that we can levy more for that 325, but the levy's all local. I don't know if that helps.
So I'll also say too, it's not a Mosinee issue, it's a systemic, it's a state issue that we have declining population. So because we have declining population, most schools in the state are losing students simply because people are not having as many children.
Correct.
So it's not that we're doing anything wrong. So that declining population in combination with the state saying, you're not getting any more money, and then we lost some students due to that population decline, we have to come up with the funds from the local property taxes, is what the state has forced us to do.
Very well said.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you very much. Item 11.6, discussion and possible decision, district safety handbook and protocol.
Yeah, I've been working on this over the summer. I was able to get one I've put together in the past along with one of a local or a national expert that lives locally, and combined a couple of them together. We've made some significant, not significant, we've made some changes to our protocols and how we're handling evacuations, reunifications, rally points, things like that. I'm in the process. I have one individual left to reach out to confirm that their place is a rally point. That won't be an issue, but because research will tell you that most likely your active shooter is going to come from your community, your school, your district, I'm not releasing a lot of the information on this because I'm not giving away the blueprint to the plan. There are only a handful of people that know where our reunification point is, and that's done on purpose. In multiple conversations with safety experts at this level, they tell you to minimize who knows where that is, and out of safety reasons. But administration has had a chance to look at it. You know, I think it streamlines some stuff for us. I think it also puts us in a better position. One of the things I guess I'll touch on with it briefly is, and by the way, the staff's not gonna get the full 60-page, 70-page document. We're creating a much smaller one for them. That's flip chart based, that just gives them the essentials, because a lot of the stuff in this is actually the nuts and bolts of how we're gonna put everything together, and everybody's roles and responsibilities on a given crisis. But you know, if you think back to the bomb threat that the district had, and everybody went to the rec center, or the elementary and the high school went to the rec center, if you think about that from an active shooting perspective, let's hypothetically say the worst scenario happened, it was an active shooter. You've got EMS, you've got fire, you've got police, all trying to respond to this location to assist in it. And then you've got 1,800 parents also driving to this 4-block radius of the city. You're going to have gridlock that's going to minimize your ability for your EMS, your first responder personnel, to come do their job. So I will tell you, we're going to rally points, and then we're going to move kids to a reunification point. The only information I'll give you on where the reunification point is it is across the river. We are getting across the river, we are getting out of this part of town to allow those individuals to do what they need to do to respond to this in the event. My goal and hope in life is we never have to use this, and I just wasted a bunch of hours over the summer is my goal in life. But we do have something in place in case something were to happen.
Any more discussions?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I have some recommendations.
Yep.
So, obviously you ran this through, like you're saying, the security POC.
Yep.
But, why do we have names in here? Is it mandated that we have to, because people come and go, positions don't?
Right, the reason we have the names in there is because it ties to that. The way the plan is written, Jessica, is how it looks on my computer screen, or how it looks as every page is its own Google Drive. So what will happen is you'll update it on an annual basis, as people come and go, and then you'll just give the one page that they need to change in their crisis manual to them. Because a lot of this stuff is tied to phone numbers as well, that we need individuals' active phone number in it. So that is why that's included in there.
Okay. And then I did not see any guidance on if you're gonna set parameters for the amount of time that you are practicing the drills and the training. So I know historically, we've done a lot of talk, but we haven't really enacted the true
Right.
training for the
Right.
staff and the students. So I think we need to hold ourselves accountable to make sure that we are doing that as a district.
Okay.
And then I see no mention of the partnerships that we have with the Mosinee PD, the Mosinee Fire Department, if we're gonna, if there is a mass casualty situation, if we're going to partner with mutual aid.
Right.
Are any of those parameters laid out, like you're saying, big picture, not in
Right.
depth, but
Right.
at least we know
Right.
who our community partners are?
We do have identified the community partners. I'm in the process of communicating with Phil, and I'm not gonna try to pronounce his last name, Head of Emergency Management at Marathon County, to continue to further those. I have had conversations with the chief about that. Some of that mutual aid stuff happens on their end because they have all those connections to their own individual sites. Mavo, I think, is one of them that they're called. So that's stuff that happens on their end, not necessarily on our end. Because the reality is in a crisis situation, they're taking over complete control of the site. I don't have any control over what happens once the highest ranking police official shows up, that I lose all control. So a lot of that stuff is on their end, how they're doing that. I'm also working a little bit, I've had some conversations with the airport about how they handle some of these exercises, so we're trying to gather that information. And I do have a conversation scheduled coming up with Phil to talk about how we can do that, but it's been a work in progress trying to get everybody to a table.
Okay, so are we going to at least put some of those aspects in the book? So, because if this is written for staff, correct, that's the intended audience? Or is this checking a box for the state?
No, well, the intended audience is twofold. It's number one, the staff is gonna get a shorter version of it, a condensed version. They're not gonna get the full version. And then the other one is for the administration to have access to the full version, to make sure that we know what our responsibilities are, and as a stopgap to go back to check to make sure you've done all the responsibilities that you have. This crisis manual would not include any conversations with what happens from a first responder PD side, because that's their realm. Our realm is this side.
Yes, but to me, still putting them at least in there would help staff to know that, to your point, once they're on scene, it's their game, they're in control.
Yep.
Just reading that, I just didn't gather that from the document. So, and then additionally, I know that this was an issue when we have that bomb threat.
Okay.
So have staff been trained on communications, meaning the brevity and making sure that your comms are short and sweet and concise and clear, so that you're not stepping on each other, trying to all use the same net?
Right, that has not been, that's one of the next parts of it, but the reality is staff will not be on the same channel as the administration will be as we're talking about this. There's multiple channels on our radio system.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, the administration recommends approval.
Also,
I have a motion by Stankowski,
I'll second.
second by Kaiser. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
We have one nay. All right, motion carries. 11.7, discussion possible decision unusual hazard transportation plan renewal.
This hasn't been renewed since the 90s. Theoretically, it should be renewed a little bit more frequently than that, once every 5 to 8 years. I actually was not able to get an electronic version of the last one. It was typed on a typewriter, so I had to transpose it. But we have provided an updated list. I did, since when I typed this, I hadn't responded, but we did get feedback from the bus company. We also received feedback from the sheriff, and then sheriff followed up with a letter of support. What happens is the sheriff supplies a letter approving the plan, working with you to approve the plan. And then the plan, the sheriff's letter, coupled with the minutes from a board meeting where hopefully it's passed, go to the DPI for formal approval. It's a required step you have. It's just typically you analyze this on a 5 to 8 year basis, not a 30 to 40 year basis.
Discussion? Any questions? I will seek a motion then.
So moved.
I have a motion by Bauer to accept the unusual hazard transportation plan renewal.
I'll second.
Second by Stankowski. Any more discussion?
So there's no real changes on this?
No.
It's just
It's just
formalizing
updating
and
the
getting
plan.
it typed.
Yeah, the last time the plan was updated.
Yep.
And I don't even know if we have the original. We just have an updated one from when they added a housing development in Cronin letter. I have a letter in my office from a Sheriff Lewis
Giannoli.
Lee or something like that, from like,
Louis Giannoli.
yeah, from like 1977.
That would be in the 70s.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. 11.8, discussion and possible decision dedication of wrestling room to the Dick Kosminski Community Wrestling Room.
That was a request brought forward to me by Dylan, the head wrestling coach, as they're looking to raise some funds to outfit. We are with the transition to the new building, or the renovated building, they are gonna take over what's the current weight room as a wrestling room. They've never really had a dedicated space here, so it's nice to provide them a dedicated space, but they're looking to outfit it with mats and other such things. And so one of the things that he requested is to name it after their former coach. So what I did is I gave you the letter of the request along with the policy that outlines the parameters around naming a space, a building, a room, whatever after somebody, so.
For people that don't know, Dick was a longtime teacher at the elementary, called him Mr. K. He was a longtime wrestling coach here, dedicated a lot of his life to teaching and coaching. And I
I'll
think
make
it
the
fits
motion too.
our policy. We have a motion,
No, second.
motion by Gorman, second by Kaiser. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. 11.9, discussion possible decision policy revisions.
Annual twice a year policy revision update. I did not see, I did it a little while ago, so I'd have to rethink, but I don't believe there's anything real, no new policies, no deleted policies, mainly revisions and some legal changes along with some technical corrections, but nothing of great, anything I thought that was earth-shattering in here, besides some updates.
Any questions?
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion by Gorman,
I'll second.
second by Nest. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Now, item 12, administrative reports.
I have nothing new to add. Nothing new.
No, anybody else? Any other administrators? Okay. Other reports, item 13. Item 13.1, the WASB report.
Okay, so there is a workshop coming up. Sorry. The fall regional meeting, which is going to be, at the Holiday Inn, I believe in Cedar
Yep.
Point. And the date on that is
November 4th.
November 4th. So contact Jackie if you want to attend that. And then I'm assuming you probably all got this letter as well. I received one in the mail. Notice of election in Region 5. So if you wanted to nominate someone.
Yeah, if you have a
anyone to nominate,
nomination
or-
and there's a form you have to fill out and the board has to formally approve the nomination, that one of your board members running for the WASB regional board that's currently held by Jim Boucher, correct?
Yep. He's the Wausau School Board President,
Yep.
former football coach of Wausau East and a principal at Lakeland.
So, yeah, I believe everyone probably received the same paperwork.
Is anybody interested?
Anything else? Thank you very much. Item 13.2, CISA 9 report.
Okay, CISA 9 had their annual meeting on Monday, August 4th. I was, approached by stealing one of their employees. But it's okay, I think they got someone they like. And anyway, Al and Hannah, they presented in Chicago, so that was quite a, accomplishment for them. They also, Ryan McCain, our former teacher, and Aaron Truax are also working on redoing the state report cards. So two of our Mosinee people are on some committees that are helping to better our probably reporting and things like that. And yours truly was elected to the board, the CISA Board of Control. So-
Congratulations.
Cool.
That's
So-
awesome. More meetings.
Nice.
Monday nights. So, anyway, first Monday of the month.
Got your
And-
seat back.
Yes, we got the Mosinee seat back. That,
It's awesome.
it's been how many years since
Oh.
Mike was on the board?
Yes.
How many years
8,
ago?
9.
And so it's kind of a good thing that we have it back, because, I don't know, you just, I don't know, Mia maybe can, report, it's unique. The CISA, 9 is a unique group of people. They're, Al Betry is so organized, and so he and Hannah, they just, fun going to the meetings because just of the way they are and how they accept everyone that comes and you just feel like you're part of it even though you only go once a year or once a month. So anyway, that's it.
Okay, awesome, thank you both. Item 15, move into closed session. Under section 19.85, we will consider employment, promotion, compensation, performance evaluation of data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction and exercise